As you may or may not know, my wife and I just got back from Vegas. It was a great trip. We ate, we drank, we had a blast. But then we got home and looked at the credit card, and I gotta say, it doesn't matter how much fun you're having, $25 for a drink is a ripoff. Frickin' Vegas. I hate getting ripped off, and so do the lads over at Harry's. They spent years watching the razor blade companies rip people off and said, no more. Not all heroes wear capes, my friends, and they want to prove that they're legit by offering you hot dogs a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. I've been telling you about them for months, and I'm genuinely proud to have Harry's as a sponsor of this show. I wasn't kidding. The plastic, futuristic-looking crap razors you get at the store are overpriced and they're poor quality. Harry's blades are crisp, clean, and classy. They're the kind of razor you'd expect your grandpa to have on his bathroom counter. And most importantly, they work. Shave after shave, they're so smooth, they're precise. I used to go through the crappy store blades all the time, but Harry's are built to last. And they're not just better quality than the other names, they're more affordable. And they deliver. Just set your schedule, and for as little as $2, new blades, shaving creams, lotions, everything you need, right to your door when you need it. I genuinely cannot think of a reason not to try Harry's. And I'm not just saying this because they're sponsors. They're the best shaving supplies I've ever used. Try them out, and if you're not happy, your shave's on them. And unlike the other subscriptions, they're really easy to cancel if you want to too, which is a nice bonus, but believe me, you're not going to want to cancel. Getting ripped off isn't funny. Switch to Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/RTG. That's harrys.com/RTG for a $3 trial set. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Remember the Game. It is my retro gaming podcast where every week a buddy of mine and I sit down and we geek out about the games we played back in the day. My name is Adam Blank. Thank you so much for listening to the show. And this week it is episode 133. And not only is it episode 133, but it is fucking Royal Rumble week in the land of WWE, baby. And admittedly, this is the first year maybe since I started watching pro wrestling that I don't really care about the Royal Rumble because wrestling is just kind of crappy right now. But you can bet your ass that I care about the Royal Rumble video game, which is the main event of this week's podcast. I never grew up. I never played the Genesis version when I was a kid, but I played the fuck out of the SNES version, and I've done some homework. I see there's some differences, particularly when it comes to the roster, and that's okay. You guys know me. I'm not going to leave you Sega kids hanging. We're going to chat about both versions. They seem quite similar, so I think it's going to be easy to cover all our bases here. My good buddy, fellow nerd, fellow comedian, fellow Royal Rumbler, Miklos Blackshaw, makes his triumphant return to the ring this week, and we had ourselves a nice little chat about WWF Royal Rumble. And, God, I love wrestling games, man. I love them. I try to space them out in our episode order. I try not to cover more than one every few months because I know not everyone that listens to the show is a booger-eating wrestling mark like I am. But for those of you that are, I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you don't like wrestling, I hope you enjoy this episode anyways, because in the end, we're all just hot dogs trying to survive on this planet and forget about real life for an hour. And hopefully, I can help you do that. And before we get to the main event this week, which is the WWF Royal Rumble game, you know there's always an undercard. And speaking of the undercard, it is time for the Remember the Game infamous intro. Admittedly, that was not the smoothest segue into the intro that I've ever had. I feel like I gotta find an entrance music or something, something to play there, just a tune, or I'll figure out. I gotta come up with something. Please remember, as is the case every week here on the show, I listen to my own show after it's done, at least long enough to track down timestamps for you guys, just like skipping chapters in a DVD. So if you're just here for Royal Rumble Talk or blowing in the cartridge or whatever segment, look in the description box below and skip to that timestamp instead of taking substantially more time to send me an angry email about the length of the intro. I used to stress out about the intro and it going too long, but I just don't care anymore. I feel like it's like a 2-course meal. Some of you have told me that you actually listen to the intro on the way to work, and then on the way home, you listen to the game chat part, which is 2 for the price of 0 here at Remember the Game. So no matter how you consume this podcast, thank you for listening to at least part of it, at least downloading it. Thank you very much. And hopefully, I can thank you for listening to my other podcast, Game Patch, as well. It's just slowly growing every week. All the biggest news in the world of Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox each week, and it's covered in a thick layer of my inability to pronounce big words, and then I sprinkle a little bit of my over-passionate opinions on top. I also tell you about the new games coming out each week. The new games coming out each week. I tell you about the best sale pickups on every console each week. It's pretty fucking slightly above average. Game Patch. Well, yeah, slightly above average. New episodes of Game Patch go live every single Monday morning on all podcast services. Or if you want to take advantage of my sales suggestions in time for the weekend, support us on Patreon and you'll get it Friday morning instead, which is the definitive way to listen to it. Because you pick it up, you listen to it Friday morning, I tell you what games are on sale, you skip out of work at lunch, pick up something, enjoy your weekend playing video games, as opposed to waiting until Monday and then finding out what you could have picked up on sale over the weekend. It just makes sense, I think. And it's only $2 a month. $2. It's changing your couch. And not only do you get Game Patch 3 days early every week, but you'll get exclusive access to Expansion Pass, which is my gaming discussion podcast. New episodes of that drop every Sunday. And the second you sign up, you get instant access to every old episode in the well. And there's like over 50 just sitting in our archives now. And if I'm just going to be honest with you guys, like I work way harder on Expansion Pass than I do on Remember the Game. Like, if you've ever wondered what a podcast hosted by me would sound like if I actually tried, that's Expansion Pass. Last week, we locked in our gaming predictions for 2021. I made a whole bunch. I read some of our listeners. I reacted to them. They're locked in. And then this is something I'm going to start doing every week, I think. I'm going to give you guys a free sample. I'm going to put a few minutes of that episode right here. Again, timestamps in the description box. If you're not interested, I'll tell you what to skip to. But your support is more than ever as comedy continues to die just a little more every day. So this is an idea of the podcasts you're going to get in exchange for your $2. Another Xbox prediction I have is that they're going to continue to spend money because they're Microsoft, and I think they're going to finally get a hold of Sega. They're going to add Sega to Game Pass. They're going to also increase the cost of Game Pass to make up for the purchase by $5 a month. Now, I want to break this down a little bit. The rumors of Xbox buying Sega have been around forever. That's been floated out 1,000 times. It's a huge purchase, and you got to remember, Sega's publicly traded, so it would be impossible for them to just cut this deal in secret under the table or whatever, because being publicly traded, it would come out that Microsoft wants to buy Sega. So I think it's going to kind of happen. I don't think Xbox is going to buy Sega. I think Xbox is going to buy Sega's games and the exclusivity to those games. That way Sega can remain an independent company, continue making their arcade machines and all that stuff they do, which really does seem to be their wheelhouse these days. They can do that completely separate from Microsoft. I think Xbox will pay them for exclusive access to their entire back catalog and to all future games in all of their franchises, and then they'll add all of these to Game Pass. So you'll see stuff like all the Sonic games. I know most of the Yakuza games are already on there, but you'll see the Yakuza games. Phantasy Star will come to Game Pass. Streets of Rage, the Persona games, all the Sega franchises. I think Xbox will add most of Sega's back catalog to Game Pass, and they'll have the exclusive rights to new games moving forward. The next Sonic, the next Phantasy Star, the next Persona, those will all come to Game Pass. But Sega won't be purchased by Microsoft, so they can go do whatever they want with arcade games. To me, this makes a ton of sense. It really does, because it would be cheaper to buy the rights to all these games than it would be to just buy Sega outright. can't imagine Microsoft has any interest in buying all the arcade games and all that shit like that. They just want these games to sell more Game Pass subscriptions. Plus, you've got to remember, it's a way for Xbox to get at least some sense of relevancy in Japan. Because Xbox doesn't matter over there, but Sega is fucking huge. So that was a look at our predictions episode. It just went live, and we have all kinds of episodes. We look back on stuff like the PlayStation 2, the Dreamcast. There's all kinds of ranking episodes, modern game reviews, lots of fun stuff. This Sunday's episode of Expansion Pass the topic was picked by the hot dogs, and it is going to be the worst video game enemies. Not just bosses, but those enemies that just make you fucking rage. You know what I'm talking about. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then in addition to all the bonus podcasts, all the early podcasts, you can help pick games we cover on here. You could submit comments to be read on every show. You get access to our Discord service, which is really going and becoming fun. And most importantly, god damn it, you can support me, and you can support Remember the Game Industries. And we hit 170 plus Patreons this week, which is sick. So a huge thank you to our newest supporters, the Anti-Spatial Podcast, Nicholas Martinez, A Novel Console, Kevin, AJ Jones, and AJ Freeman. Thank you all so much. Welcome to Remember the Game Industries. $2, you'll get a plug like that. Tons of value. Keep us on the air. Patreon.com/Remember the Game. And I have a P.O. box. I'm getting better at mentioning that. You can find the full address on our website, but it is Remember the Game, P.O. Box 69181, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, Terry 6, Victor 1, Gary 7, T6V1G7. And I'm just asking for postcards. Just postcards or like a quick letter. Just tell me where are you listening in the world. I have Remember the Game postcards here. I'll send you one back. We'll be friends. It's lots of fun. And then finally, as I always plug, I stream over on Twitch on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday night from 8 to 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Well, 10:30 or 11, depending on how it's going. Look for Remember the Game over on Twitch. Not Remember the Game. And it's completely free. It's really fun. Most people just hang out and make fun of my bad gameplay. We actually played Smash Brothers on Sunday. We just took 7 members of the community from our Discord, and me and 7 of them just played Smash. It was a good time, except Kelly put a pounding on all of us, and that fucking hurt. But it was a great community here. It really is, and I'd love for you all to be a part of it. And that is enough blowing myself. Let's blow in some cartridges. As you know, it is the official opening segment of the show. I read a few comments and questions from our Patreons, usually gaming related, but not always. And we call this segment Blowing in the Cartridge. And quickly, if you are a Patreon and you don't submit comments to these because you're like, he's never going to read this anyway, it's not worth dealing with Patreon's shitty fucking website. I will read them. I read absolutely as many as I can, and if I see a new name, I go out of my way to make sure you get on the show, so it is worth your time, but I do agree that the fucking Patreon website is garbage. 100%. It's a fucking pain in the ass. So just, if you've been thinking about it, fucking sound off, okay? And with that said, let's blow. Our first blower this week is Mr. Satan, and Mr. Satan says, hello from the hot dog water. What game has almost made you want to quit gaming? Mine was Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. The end was I guess this is a tiny spoiler, so you've been warned. The end was a to be continued. I was so fucking mad. I loved the game and the story, but the ending made me want to flip a fucking table. Also, what's a game that made you say, God damn, that was fucking amazing? Spoilers ahead. Hey, there's not actually spoilers here. This is what Mr. Satan wrote. Mr. Satan said, Halo Reach's ending was mine. I put my controller down and was ready. And then I'm going to lie to you, Mr. Satan. I haven't read what else you typed, and I deleted it from my notes because I have not finished Halo Reach. I'm not shitting on you for it. I have no problem with you posting the ending because it's an old video game and I had time to play it. I just haven't, and I want to. So I haven't actually read what about Halo Reach's ending made you say, God damn, that was amazing. But I know something about it did. So sorry I didn't finish your comment there. And then finally, Mr. Satan said, what is your favorite split screen game? In my books, it's Armored Core. All speed, jump jets, and machine guns. So, okay. Let me just go back to your message here, Mr. Satan. What game almost made me quit gaming? Probably Dark Souls is the closest. Like, because everyone talks about how great Dark Souls is, and they say it's hard, but you just have to get good. And I wanted to try it so bad because traditionally I like tough games. I don't mind getting good, but Dark Souls is just so fucking slow. Like, I've explained this on the show before. You die, it loads, you hike back and die, and you die, and then it loads, and it's just too slow for me. Just too, And it's funny, because every time I think about Dark Souls, as I'm saying these words right now, part of me is like, I should really give that game another try. I bet I could beat it this time. But I just know that I'll fucking get angry and think about hanging up my controller again. So Dark Souls is probably the one that's made me consider quitting gaming. What game made me say, God damn, that was amazing? So many. I guess if I have to pick one, I would say probably the first Last of Us. Like, I finished that game. I love the ending and the story, and I remember finishing it and thinking, like, yeah, God damn, that was amazing. Like, I was sad that it was over. And it was honestly, it might have been the first time since the Super Nintendo that I thought, like, right away, this is one of my favorite video games of all time. The Last of Us rocked my socks, so that would be it. And then my favorite, the best split screen game. Like, the N64 wrestling games are my favorite multiplayer games ever, but they aren't technically split screen. So if it's got to, by definition, be split screen, then my favorite would either be GoldenEye 007 or Mario Kart 64. Those would be them. So thank you, Mr. Satan. I'm sorry I couldn't read your whole comment, but I didn't want to spoil the end of Halo Reach for myself. That one kid, Nick, wrote in and said, "What's up, Adam? We all know you're a diehard Simpsons fan, but I was curious about your thoughts on Matt Groening's other children, Futurama and Disenchantment. Futurama is my favorite all-time animated show. I have a Planet Express ship on my nightstand right next to the drawers where I keep various lengths of wire. I'm sure my friends are probably sick of me quoting Fry and Zap Brannigan all the time, but I'm going to anyway. I've been meaning to ask this for a while and kept forgetting until I'd heard you reference The Simpsons in a recent episode. Also, who are your top 3 favorite voice actors, and have you ever considered being one yourself? I'm sure Angry Adam, trademark, could have his own animated show if he pitched it to Fox. Cheers, Nick." Fuck yeah, Nick. It's funny because we get all kinds of Ninja Turtles questions, and that's dope. But hit me up with Simpsons stuff too. I love talking Simpsons. Do I like Futurama and Disenchantment? I have never watched Disenchantment. I really should. A few of you have brought it up, but I have not watched it. However, I do love Futurama. I haven't watched it in a while. I don't think it's streamable anywhere in Canada, is it? If it is, someone let me know. I don't think it is. But I used to have the first 4 seasons of Futurama on DVD, and I'd watch them all the time. I actually got really bad food poisoning years and years ago. I was in bed for like 4 days. I was fucked up, and I just binged Futurama, and I fucking I love that show. Fry might be the most underrated protagonist ever. I love that character. Fry is my favorite. Zoidberg is awesome. Bender's hilarious. Amy, the smart monkey with the hat that chirps Fry. That's my favorite episode. Oh, and that angry robot. I can't remember his name. The angry red one that wants to stab people. Fucking great show, man. As far as my favorite voice actor, Hank Azaria is my favorite for sure. That guy, he's so talented. And he does so many of my favorite Simpsons characters. If you don't know, he does like Moe, Comic Book Guy, Chief Wiggum. It goes on and on. Like, look up the list. It's incredible how many. He used to do Apu, but then he retired that character's voice. Just a beast. So Hank Azaria is my favorite. And you asked if I ever considered being a voice actor myself. It's funny. In junior high, in my grade 9 class, we had to do a yearbook where we all said where we would be in 10 years. And I actually said in 10 years, I'd probably be doing voices on The Simpsons because puberty wrecked me and changed my voice and I'm out of practice. But I used to be really good. Like, I used to do all kinds of, every time I do a presentation in school, I would do Simpsons voices like Grandpa, Mayor Quimby, Chief Wiggum, Barney, Moe, Krusty. I used to do tons of impressions, but I'm out of practice and you guys can. My voice is not aged well. I have a voice for reading, like written word. I should anyway. Thanks, Nick. Good question. The Honest Pokemon Trainer wrote in and said, "Hey, Adam, what's your opinion on game shops still selling Cyberpunk as a quote hot item? I've walked into many stores where the game is being advertised as a top pick, a bestseller, etc. Whilst in theory this may statistically be true, the game was broken on release, and I find it extremely dishonest for retailers to be selling it as such, whilst knowing full well they're providing the customer with a fat turd. Is this problem with the developer, the retailer, or everyone involved with the purchase? Kind regards, Honest Pokemon Trainer." Yeah. I'm gonna lie to you, Pokemon Trainer. I don't like that. It's whenever... Fuck. So here's the thing. Whenever someone brings up anything a company is doing and shits on it, I try to see it from both sides before I go after them. Like, and this is just one example that we've actually talked about recently, but people yell at Nintendo for charging full price for old video games, but those old video games are selling at full price, so why would they discount them? And that's just an example. I get it from a consumer side, you want a deal, but from a business side, I understand why Nintendo's like, no, we're fucking, why are we going to give up profits? I understand it. So I can see it from both angles. But in this case, I agree, 100%. I have not seen this myself, Cyberpunk in like the best sellers, top sellers, editors picks, whatever section, but it's also been a while since I went into a video game store because I'm a digital game buying shut-in these days. I will also say if it's the PC version, I don't have much of an issue with that. If your computer can't run Cyberpunk, I feel like that's more on you than them. You know, and everyone is saying as long as your PC is up to snuff, Cyberpunk 2077 is a top shelf experience. But if it's the console versions, particularly the PS4, Xbox One version, like to sell it to PS4 and Xbox One owners, because I know the other ones aren't out yet. Yeah, that's fucking greasy. I don't like that. I can sympathize to an extent with a business that's just stuck with a whole bunch of copies of this broken video game that they bought. I get that. But to try to convince uneducated consumers that this thing is the second coming and the hottest game ever, and your kid, wife, husband, whoever's going to love it, yeah, that's fucking brutal because you're ripping them off, right? If you're stuck with copies and you know these copies aren't going to work for people and you're selling them at a discount, which seems to be the case because a lot of big stores are already selling Cyberpunk at like 30% off, then why lie and put it in the top sellers section when you could just put it in the clearance section or the sales bin? You know, and obviously the answer is because it'll sell in the top sellers section, but then you just look like a piece of shit. So to me, assuming you can't send copies of this game back to CD Projekt Red, put them in clearance or discount bins or just put them on sale, put them right there on the counter. And then if someone buys it, they hate it, it doesn't work, and they bring it back, whatever, you know, but maybe they'll just say, well, whatever, I got it on sale, I got it on clearance, and they'll keep it. And I have a little bit less sympathy because you bought it on sale. I don't love that idea either because I think you're still ripping people off. But if a store has stock they can't return, they have to try to sell it. And I do believe that there is some onus on a consumer to do their homework. I do think that, you know, I'm not justifying that you can sell a broken game to someone and it's their job to know it's broken. But I do think it is on the consumer to do some homework. You know, and like the thing is, if I was at a clerk at a gaming store like that, I'd like to think that I would warn somebody before they bought it, especially if I'm getting paid like fucking $10 an hour or whatever. Like my paycheck doesn't go up if you buy this game, and I don't want you coming back and yelling at me. So I think I would be at least like, hey, just a heads up. If you're playing this on old systems, it's probably not going to work well. So yeah, I don't like that honest Pokemon trailer. There's ways to blow out bad inventory other than trying to pull the wool over your customers' eyes and convince them a game is good when it isn't. So. And then finally, our final blower this week gets the distinction of having the letter time letter. So it's letter time. It's letter time. Mercury869 wrote in and said, hey, bud, I know the other day you had a buddy on and you guys briefly touched on arcade cabinets. I've been throwing the idea around of having one in my basement when I get around to finishing it. However, I'm thinking about using a Raspberry Pi for the arcade list. As much as I like the one-up machines, I don't like that they only play the one game. What are your thoughts on something like this? Do you know of any areas I can look for something like this that's reasonable in price? I look forward to your finite wisdom. Mercury, my wisdom is incredibly finite, no question. To answer the second question first, I don't know where to get one at a reasonable price. I do know there are companies in Alberta that make them, but you are looking at four figures. Because in our old house, I had this big open basement, and I really wanted to put an arcade machine down there, but they were just too expensive. That's where the one-up ones come into place, because instead of shelling out four figures, you're shelling at $400-$500. But like you said, you're only getting a couple of games on it. So as far as Raspberry Piing an arcade cabinet and loading it up with games, follow me here. This is funny because I refuse to buy a one-up cabinet as much as I think they're awesome, because I also can't justify paying $500 to play one or two games like Ninja Turtles or Pac-Man. I'm not shitting on those cabinets. They're fucking sick, but I understand where you're coming from. I always said if I got a cabinet, I wouldn't want to hack it or add a Raspberry Pi to it because I would want it to be traditional. So it's like I don't want to pay full price for a cabinet with one game, but I don't want to buy a cabinet and then add a bunch of games and ruin the tradition of it. So I don't know what I fucking want. I think arcade cabinets are dope. I think the one-up cabinets are fucking awesome. If I ever got a big arcade cabinet with hundreds of games on it, I would love it. I would use it. So I'm certainly not going to poo-poo on the idea. It's a great idea. If you're spending the cash, do whatever you have to do to make that thing as enjoyable as possible. I'm down with that. I think like my dream cabinet, as I've said before, is a vintage OG Miss Pac-Man machine. I don't want like a rebuild, and I don't want one that's hacked or anything. Just a straight up classic Miss Pac-Man machine. I've wanted one of those things for like 25 years. So I would not hack that. But my suggestion, Mercury, if you're on a budget, is I'm 90% sure you can hack the 1-up cabinets. So maybe look for a 1-up cabinet that you can get for $400 or $500, then go under the hood and add a bunch of games. Because to me, it seems a little sacrilegious to buy an actual vintage arcade cabinet and add games to it. And if you want to buy a full-size cabinet from somebody else and add games to it, like a built cabinet that they built, at least around Edmonton, it looks like you're looking in 4 figures. So kind of comes down to how much money you have to spend. But anyway, that's good blowing. Good questions. I like that. That was a lot of fun. We're at 20 minutes. Oh no, we're going to be longer than that once I put anyway, you guys know, it's the intro. Let's get into our smash hit segment, Play One, Remake One, Erase One. And a huge thank you, as always, to Classic Concentration from the NES for unknowingly providing us with the theme music for the show. The rules are simple. You guys know how this works by now. Every week, I give our listeners 3 retro video games. They can play one as it was released, they can remake one as a modern game, and the third game is erased from time forever. And this week, I figured we're talking wrestling, so let's do a wrestling edition of the show. And I wanted it to be tough, and based on the feedback, this one was tough. I figured I could either go with 3 really bad wrestling games or 3 really good wrestling games. And I went with not just 3 really good wrestling games, but 3 fucking great wrestling games. Arguably the 3 best wrestling video games of all time. Our contenders this week are WCW NWO Revenge for the Nintendo 64, SmackDown Here Comes the Pain for the PlayStation 2, and of course, WWF No Mercy for the Nintendo 64. As always, there are no wrong answers, but there is a correct one. I will tell you what it is in a minute. And this was the hardest one for me personally to make my decision so far. Because like erasing one of these games I feel like I'm erasing part of my soul by getting rid of one of these video games. And I already sold 75% of my soul to makeshift money for $5 that I went out and spent on inflatable sponge dinosaurs. So this one was tough. And I really want to read all the comments this week because they're all so passionate. People that love wrestling. So I might go a little faster than normal, but we're going to get a bunch of these in. Robert Fuchsia wrote in and said, "This is a bullshit game." Right out of the gate. Robert said, "I'd play WCW NWO Revenge. This was the wrestling game I played the most as a kid. I wasn't really into WCW, but I was certainly aware of it. The roster was huge, and this game was a big upgrade from WWF Warzone on the 64. I could actually pull off a finisher without having to put in a 20-button combination. Imagine that. So for all the nostalgia this game brings back, it makes it a must-play. I'm going to remake SmackDown Here Comes the Pain in hopes that it inspires better from the 2K series, as I've been dying for a good wrestling game. And then I would erase WWF No Mercy. It pains me to do it, but as I've said, I have more nostalgia for Revenge. And at the time No Mercy came out, I actually preferred the SmackDown series over on PlayStation." You know what, Robert? Dude, I played so much WWF Warzone and Attitude, and they both just ate so much ass compared to the THQ games. Having to put in the combos to do a finisher, I fucking hated them, so I get where you're coming from. Well, I liked them back then, but they're horrible now. And I could see how some people are more nostalgic for Revenge than No Mercy. I get that. I actually have a lot of nostalgia for WCW NWO World Tour, the predecessor to Revenge as well, so I get it. Brian Ransom wrote in and said, "Play SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. It was perfect. Great roster, create characters, and campaign were amazing. Controls felt smooth. One of the last good WWE games ever made." You're not wrong. Remake WWF No Mercy. I played it for the first time this year. It feels fun. Give it some updated graphics and a better controller because the controls suck on the Nintendo 64. And then erase WCW NWO Revenge because I have no attachment or have ever watched any WCW. Wow, Brian. So I agree that Here Comes the Pain is just really fucking perfect. I get that. I agree. And sometimes I think erasing a game because you never played it is a bit of a cop-out. But if you don't know WCW, then erasing WCW NWO Revenge makes sense because you don't even know who half those wrestlers are. I can get on board with that. Mr. Nick says, "This one is very tough. I would play No Mercy. There's a reason this has gone down as the best wrestling game of all time, so just leave it be and enjoy it with friends if you can. Maybe give it a boost so it doesn't go into slow-mo mode when you have 4 players. Agreed. Remake SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. Can you imagine this game with the graphics of 2021? It could be a BWGOAT candidate. Okay, I'll get into what that is in a second. This was the upgrade from the No Mercy style of wrestling games. Keep the roster as it had. Just add a new coat of paint and sound upgrades, and then erase WCW NWO Revenge. This was super hard to think of. Does No Mercy exist because of this game? Yes. Did wrestling games become huge on the foundation of this game? Yes. Do people go back to this game just because it's WCW and NWO? Yes, it really seems like I'm making an argument to keep it, but No Mercy took what this game did and expanded it in huge ways. If it can exist without this game, then it's got to fade away. Sorry, WCW. So first of all, Mr. Nick, I was like, I'm like, what the fuck is the BW GOAT? And I was like, I know what a GOAT is, but what is BW? So I Googled it and I couldn't figure it out. And then I just started sounding it out and I was like, best wrestling GOAT, best wrestling game of all time. There it is, BW GOAT. That's fucking, I'm dumb. But you might be right, Nick, especially with 2K these days. If you polished up Here Comes the Pain, oh man, because they have not been good since, well, they've been good since Here Comes the Pain, but they have gotten worse. And I get erasing Revenge, because at the end of the day, No Mercy is a better Revenge. So I get that. Andre SJ Flash says, this is not easy, man. Play Revenge. This is the game that got the ball rolling. Some would say World Tour or even WCW versus the World, but Revenge put this game series on the map and paved the way. Remake No Mercy, even though this is the greatest wrestling game ever made to date, imagine what it could be with a coat of next-gen paint. And then erase Here Comes the Pain. Unfortunately, there has to be an odd man out. This game is great, but for me, it never reached the levels of No Mercy. I played it on my computer last year, and it's a good wrestling game, but I'll be honest, the SmackDown series was just okay in my opinion. They're too fast, too janky, and too arcadey. Here Comes the Pain is the best of those games, but it still misses the mark for me. You know what? Flash, it's not a popular take, but I kind of agree. I really like the SmackDown games all the way back to the first one. But I did also find them a little loose compared to the Nintendo 64 games. Not bad, but just, yeah, the controls are a little arcadey. I thought I was the only one that felt that way, so I get it, Flash. Let's go here. Dave McGee. Here are 3 that I've actually played. That's nice. Played WCW NWO Revenge because it was more than fine the way it was. Remake WWF No Mercy because that was back when wrestling was still good. And then erase SmackDown Here Comes the Pain because in my opinion, this was the beginning of the end of good wrestling content. And because that fucker Brock Lesnar's on the cover. Fuck you, Brock. Go back to getting beat up in the UFC. So I can't remember if I've ever said this on here, but I'm a Brock Lesnar fan. I like Brock Lesnar. I know it's not a popular take, I know, but he's a boss. He's huge. He's fucking great, and he's embraced Canada. He's one of us now. He's a beauty, but he is the cover athlete. He's the face of the game. So if you hate him, I get erasing it. I just don't hate him. Andre says, okay, I'm mad at you, Adam, because these games are all amazing. I would play No Mercy. This game is a classic, and I have fond memories of playing it with your little brother. Remake Here Comes the Pain. This era and its roster remade with modern graphics and the same gameplay engine would be amazeballs. Erase Revenge. I played the shit out of this, and I still want it gone. It goes away because my love for the other 2 is so much stronger, and WCW was the drizzling shits. See, Andre, WCW was the drizzling shits later, but it was still good. During Revenge, then it was still okay. At that point, we all thought Sting might still beat Hogan at some point and everything would be right, and we know what happened there. So they became the shits, but I still liked them during the Revenge era. I will say, I totally agree with praising the Here Comes the Pain roster. That era, right after the Attitude Era, was so gross. SmackDown, dude, in that era was just phenomenal. A couple more here. Where did I go? I lost my place, my notes. They Call Me Badger. This is one of the toughest ones, Adam. I thank you for it. Play Here Comes the Pain because if they tried to remake it, they would undoubtedly fuck it up. I like that. Remake No Mercy because that game was so much fun, but it looks a little rough these days. Erase WCW NWO because fuck that racist Hulk Hogan. Now, I don't agree with your order, Badger, but I don't disagree with anything you said. Particularly, fuck that racist piece of shit Hulk Hogan. That guy can leg drop a cactus. Fucking asshole. Zane Donovan says, okay, Adam, this is easy this week. I would remake No Mercy, as I think it's already getting a remake in the form of the AEW game that I can't wait for. I'd play Here Comes the Pain as it is. I love the roster and pace in this game. It's my favorite wrestling game of all time. And then I would erase WCW NWO Revenge. It is by far the worst game of the 3 here and the standout turd. Wow. That's a hot take, Zane. I agree with your No Mercy and Here Comes the Pain logic, but I don't think I can get on board with calling Revenge a turd. Is it the worst of the three? Probably, but it's not a turd. I mean, WCW Thunder for the PlayStation, that's a turd. Silver Grunion says, you're a jerk for making me choose these. Erase No Mercy. That's easy because without rose-tinted goggles by 2000, the Aki games were played out. WWF WrestleMania 2000 was vastly superior in almost every aspect. And let's face it, in this deleted No Mercy timeline, some hot dog, as you say, would have modded Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 into the ultimate WWF WrestleMania 2000 sequel that we never got, and we would have ended up with a better No Mercy anyway. Wow, I never thought of that. Play Here Comes the Pain, the same. It still holds up. And honestly, I didn't play it until much years after it was out, but I found it very fun. Then remake WCW NWO Revenge. I would add a running grapple, an authentic story mode with challenges, nothing more than what WWF No Mercy did. And then I'd add legacy WCW characters like Dusty Rhodes, Tully Blanchard, and guys that didn't make the Revenge cut like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bam Bam Bigelow, Dennis Rodman, etc. Ultimately, you also need to put in Ric Flair, but here's the big one, Adam. Give me the ability to either reassign managers or disable them. Having red and yellow Hogan come to the ring with NWO Bischoff was annoying, and if a character had a manager, there was no chance of a run-in for them as the game couldn't handle it. You know what? You're right, Grunion. I understand that. I respect the boldness of erasing No Mercy. But to say that WWF WrestleMania 2000 is better is a spicy take. I think WrestleMania 2000 is criminally underrated. I loved that game. And if you could spruce up Revenge with that same roster and make it deeper like No Mercy, then I might be willing to settle on WrestleMania 2000 for my WWF Nintendo 64 game if it meant I got a better WCW game. It's an interesting idea. But you're all wrong. I'm sorry, but you're all wrong. The only people that are right are the following. Mike Mallowaney. This is a no wrong choice decision, but I'll give it a go. You just counteracted what I fucking said, Mike. But yeah, he's right. There is no wrong decision this week. He would keep WWF No Mercy. There's a reason that the producer of this game was hired by AEW to produce their games that are coming out soon. He would remake WCW NWO Revenge. Simply put, there wouldn't be much to change in this one, but the different roster would be an awesome change. And then erase Here Comes the Pain. The biggest negative for this game is that it's not No Mercy. If that's the biggest problem it has, then there's pretty much no problem with it. You're not wrong, Mike. This was my big issue this week, is that there's no real reason to erase any of these games. That was the tough part for me, too. And then the Anti-Spatial podcast said, play WWF No Mercy because the game is amazing and it introduced tons of features and a simple story, but it made you feel like you were part of the roster and it improved on everything WrestleMania 2000 started. I also think we wouldn't need a remake of this one because we got the WWE Day of Reckoning games on the GameCube and they were literally more polished versions of No Mercy. He would remake Revenge. I don't have a good reason other than I'm a huge mark for 90s WCW, and I would love a AAA version of this game with that classic stacked roster. It would also be awesome to see them expand on the entrances, of course, and add a legitimate career mode. And then erase SmackDown Here Comes the Pain and play WWE Day of Reckoning instead. Now, I gotta be honest, I don't remember playing a lot of Day of Reckoning, but I do remember people liking them. I don't think I played a lot of them. But where Anti-Spatial's take really hit home with me was making a game that featured that late WCW 90s roster, because I have a soft spot for it as well, and that's what I want to do. Mercury 869 had the same order as Mike and Anti-Spatial podcast did, and I'm the fourth horseman here. The four of us nailed this. Play WWF No Mercy. That's what I would do. I've never hidden my overwhelming affection for this game. Erasing one of these hurts me right to my soul, but I'm losing like a year of my life if I lose all the time I spent playing WWF No Mercy. And like, not to get sentimental here, because I know some of these guys listen to the podcast and I don't want them to think I like them or anything, but like some of my favorite memories of hanging out with my buddies, not just in high school, but in my entire life, are sitting around playing WWF No Mercy. So I can't erase it. I would remake WCW NWO Revenge. And listen, SmackDown is a better game. No question. And No Mercy is a better version of Revenge. No question. The reason I would remake this thing is because I think fans that grew up in the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars and the NWO Glory Days, we have a soft spot for WCW from back then and that roster. And I would remake this purely because I don't want to lose that roster. Do what you've got to do with the engine and stuff, but just give me the roster from this game in a new wrestling game. Like, you got the NWO, the Wolfpack, Ravens Flock, DDP, Sting, Goldberg, Piper, Luger, the Cruiserweights, Mysterio, Eddie Guerrero, Vintage Chris Jericho, Psychosis, the Heartbeat of WCW, Disco Inferno. So good. I want that roster in a new game. And then I would erase SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. I think you could argue Here Comes the Pain is the best game in this list, but I would erase it because at this point, SmackDown was just like a regular game. We were getting them all the time. And like, sure, Here Comes the Pain is the best of them, but if you erase it, there's still some good SmackDown games, right? So I can live without Here Comes the Pain. But God, I miss WCW and I want it back. So that's my answer. Thank you to everyone that played. I'm sorry I couldn't read them all, but I got through as many as I could. Fuck, I love that segment. Let me get into what I've been playing. Then we'll talk Royal Rumble. I actually not been playing much over the last week. It's a lot of my time has been spent recording episodes of this podcast. So I have almost enough game chats recorded now to go until April. So it was worth it, but I haven't had a lot of time to play. The time I have had to play has primarily been spent with Final Fantasy VIII, which won this month's Patreon poll. Like I've been saying, I'm just going to shut up about it until that episode. I'll keep my thoughts very close to my chest. I will share them on the episode, but I have been playing quite a bit of it. I also finished Gears Tactics. Like I mentioned last week, very polished, just repetitive. Like I would absolutely recommend it to Gears fans for sure. But I do think if you don't like Gears of War and you're just looking for a deep tactical game, Gears Tactics, you'll get bored, I think. If you don't know the Gears universe, I don't know if there's enough there to carry you through it. But if you do, then I recommend it. And that's it. Like, that's all I've been playing. It's been just a busy week on this end. I played a little bit of Smash Ultimate on Twitch Sunday, like I said, with some of the Patreons. That was fucking awesome. And then this Thursday, for Throwback Thursday on Twitch, I'm going to start a playthrough of Super Mario RPG. I will only play it on Thursday nights on Twitch. For those of you that are interested, I love that game, so I'm looking forward to that. But that's all I've been playing. It's primarily been Final Fantasy VIII. And that's it. Let's go. It's time for the Royal Rumble. Imagine hearing Howard Finkel like, "It is time for the Royal Rumble match." And then he explains the rules, and it's so, fucking gives me chills. I like to give you nerds a chance to share your thoughts on games before I indulge myself. Luis Oliva wrote in and said, "This game is great. I remember renting it all the time. I remember this being the first game I played where wrestlers felt different from each other, and doing the Irish whip near the ropes during a Royal Rumble match always felt like a cheap way of playing, but damn it, I played to win." Fucking rights, dude. We get into that on the show. It was so easy to eliminate people with that Irish whip, but it was so cheap, but fuck them. Unless they did it to you, then it was fucking rage and furying, but otherwise it was fine. Charlie Medeiros wrote in and said, "I don't remember how this game actually plays, but I do remember playing it. Just looking at the box reminds me of visiting my cousin in the summer in Gananoku." I don't know where that is. I'm sure I said that wrong. And going to the tiny movie and video game rental place. We would rent this game and play it all summer. Every few days we'd have to bring it back, beg my aunt for money, and we would rent it again. You know what? And we're going to get into that as well, Charlie, but it's funny. We would rent this game all the time as kids too, before I finally just bought it from the video game store when they put it up for sale. But we rented it so much, over and over and over. And there's not that much meat on the bone, but fuck. And then Makeshift Money wrote in and said, "The most lasting memory I have of this game is that you could have 6 wrestlers in the ring at the same time, and 3 of them were choking the other 3 out all at once. Otherwise, it was fun enough for what it was. I liked it way more than the early 3D games." It's funny you say that, Makeshift, because having 6 wrestlers on the screen at once, even if they all looked very similar and they were all just choking each other, is exactly what stands out to me primarily about this game as well. Like I said, my buddy Sean and I rented this game over and over before I finally just bought it, and we would just play Royal Rumble after Royal Rumble after Royal Rumble. I was so obsessed with this game as a kid. My buddy Miklos and I had a nice chat about it, and you can eavesdrop on that right now. Let me cue up somebody's fucking digitized entrance music. And eventually I'm going to turn it off, and then we are going to talk WWF Royal Rumble, which originally released on June 8th, 1993 for the Super Nintendo, and September 15th, 1993 for the Sega Genesis. Here we go. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows about our illustrious CEO, my dog Molly. But the other silent partner behind the scenes is my wife. And let me tell you, my friends, a 17-year relationship with another person that has to talk to and live with you is a lot harder to maintain than one with a dog. We've had our ups and downs, and as you all know, a relationship isn't all sunshine and rainbows. They can be a lot of work. You get out what you put in when it comes to relationships, and talking to a therapist can be a fantastic way to put in some work. They can help you work through your issues, learn to communicate better, and even just provide you with an ear to bend when you need it. I've talked to my therapist about my relationships, especially when it came to my stand-up comedy career and how much I was away from home, and they helped me work on ways to keep my relationship strong even when I was out on the road. It turned out our relationship was actually better when I was out on the road, but that's a story for another day. And I know, right? Therapy. Who has the time these days? BetterHelp hears you, and they're making it easy. Fill out a quick form online, and they'll match you up with a therapist that suits your needs and that'll work around your schedule. You pick the meet times, and you can get your therapy fix from anywhere, over video, phone, or just chat. Become your own soulmate, whether you're looking for one or not. Visit BetterHelp.com/RememberTheGame today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/RememberTheGame. Okay, joining me via the blank phone this week is a good buddy of mine. It's been a while since we've had you on the show, but you're busy out learning stuff, and I'm busy hibernating inside because the world is a fucking scary place. But joining me via the phone this week is a good buddy of mine, fellow comedian, former guest on the show, and Patreon supporter. So thank you very much, my good friend Miklos Blackshaw. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. And yourself?
I'm doing okay. I'm getting a little... I'm not bored of being inside, but I'm almost bored of being inside. Almost, but not quite.
Oh man, I understand that.
Oh, fuck me, man. What a year. Anyway, nobody wants to listen. We're all here to forget about this year. So let's go back to 1993. We'll take everyone back to 1993, 1994, in that era when there was no such thing as COVID and you could go play outside all you wanted, but you didn't play outside because if you had any taste, you were inside playing fucking WWF Royal Rumble. Buddy, I love this game, Miklos. I love this game. And it's funny because like it kind of sucks. Like am I wrong? I
mean, if you go back to the standards of yesteryear, it was amazing. But by today's standards, not good.
Yeah, like this is I haven't played No Mercy in a long time or any of those Nintendo 64 games. But I feel like if I played them, maybe they wouldn't be quite as good as I remember. But I'm like, these would still hold up. Like these would still be playable. WWF Royal Rumble, like, I feel like half the reason I loved this game as much as I did as a kid was because I hadn't yet played any of the good Nintendo 64 wrestling games. Like, it was just the best at the time. But I don't... I don't know how well it would... So I'll ask... I don't know how well it would hold up today. I played the Super Nintendo one. Now, you and I were talking about this. Did you play the Genesis one growing up?
I played both.
Okay.
When you were like, hey, we should talk about this, I went and looked up some videos, and I saw a video and it went through like all of the characters, and I was like, where the fuck is Hulk Hogan? Where is Papa Shango?
Right.
Because I like distinctly remember the ridiculous leg drop for Hulk Hogan.
Fucking Hulk Hogan. Dude, so, and that's crazy to me because like I knew this game was on the Genesis. I had no idea it had a different roster. And then when you said, where the fuck is Hogan and Papa Shango? I was like, I wanted to write back and be like, they're not in the game, dumbass. Like, are you sure we're talking about the same game? What the fuck are you talking about? But then I went online and looked and I was like, what? How does what? So for those of you that don't know, the Super Nintendo version had Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect, Ted DiBiase, Yokozuna, and Tatanka. The Genesis version had Hogan, IRS, Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Fuck me. Are you fucking serious? Papa Shango and the model Rick Martel. Who the fuck? Why is listen, I'm not shitting on the model, but why the fuck is the model Rick Martel in this game? Like, who the fuck?
He was big.
I get it, but just nobody wants to play as I guarantee you, there's a reason that you were like, where the fuck is Hulk Hogan and Papa Shango, and not where the fuck is Hulk Hogan and Rick Martel? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
so, 100%.
I wonder why they did that. Like, I wonder why they did 5 different wrestlers in each side. I can't find I didn't research it, but
I imagine that there was some bidding wars for who got who, and because arguably at the time the Genesis was doing better.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's funny because like my first thought when I saw that the Genesis version had Hogan, my first thought was like, wow, that's a huge get for the Genesis. But like, I'm looking at the 2 rosters, and so the Genesis version's got Hogan, and Hulk Hogan, like, obviously Hulk Hogan's a racist piece of shit now, and everybody hates him, but he's still Hulk Hogan. But after Hogan, like IRS, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Rick Martel, and Papa Shango. And if you go to the Super Nintendo version, Ric Flair is the Super Nintendo counterpart to Hulk Hogan. And then it's Mr. Perfect, Ted DiBiase, Yokozuna, and Tatanka. Like, that's a good fucking lineup.
No, man. I can't deny it was such like a great lineup.
Yeah, like to me,
it is arguably better.
Like it reads like both systems. Like they did like a draft, but it was like so Genesis, you get the first pick, and then Super Nintendo gets the next 5. So it was like Genesis is like, well, we'll take Hogan, obviously. And then the Super Nintendo was like Ric Flair, Mr. Perfect, the $1 Million Man, Yokozuna, and then Tatanka. And then
what seems real weird to me is that Hulk Hogan was one of the optional.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Like I could see all the other ones.
Right.
So, right. Because but also like I couldn't even remember who Crush was.
No. Okay. So like, because the other 7 wrestlers in both games. Bret Hart, like I don't like Bret Hart, but obviously Bret Hart's awesome. He belongs in this game.
You could be wrong.
Yeah, well, I'm not, but like Bret Hart, obviously, The Undertaker, huge. Shawn Michaels, pretty sweet. Razor Ramon's a fucking gem. The Macho Man Randy Savage is a beast. But then it was Crush and Lex Luger. And it's
Lex Luger was pretty awesome at that time.
I fucking hate Lex Luger.
Like, I hate him all you want.
I get it, but like, where the fuck is Jake the Snake? I want Jake, or that's actually the
Jake the Snake. I don't think was doing wrestling at this time though.
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't because like that was the 2 most notable missing rosters to me.
If Jake the Snake would have been in here, you would have had to have the Ultimate Warrior too.
Those are and that's where I was gonna go. And then I fucking listen. I despise the Ultimate Warrior, but like to not have the Ultimate Warrior and Jake the Snake, those are the 2 big missing players to me.
What do you hate about the Ultimate Warrior?
What don't you hate about the Ultimate? He's awful. You want Angry Adam to show up in the first 8 minutes of this because he'll come out. The Ultimate Warrior. Listen, and for all of you out there that are screaming at your phones right now, being like, dude, the Ultimate Warrior was my hero when I was a kid, blah, 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 blah. Get it? I understand. I get it. When I was a kid, my hero was The Undertaker, and the guy I thought he was dead. So I understand that we all had heroes when we were children. But the Ultimate Warrior couldn't wrestle to save his life. His promos were awful. He just mumbled incoherent words. All you love about the Ultimate Warrior was his kick-ass, and he had a kick-ass entrance theme, and that entrance where he'd run to the ring and shake the ropes. And I understand that because
And then every time he was like kind of doing the comeback, he'd just shake the ropes. And you couldn't stop him.
Fucking awful. I hate the Ultimate Warrior so much. But I agree with you. That honestly, like the 2 names that stuck out to me were Jake the Snake and the Ultimate Warrior. But whatever. I mean, they could only get so many. And the thing about it with this game, like to me, that's not a horrible roster. Like that's a fairly decent. Like I'm going with the Super Nintendo version. Like the only wrestlers I don't ever remember playing as in the Super Nintendo version were Crush and Lex Luger. Those are the only two.
I used a lot of Lex Luger. I just like that elbow he does.
Yeah, the forearm, the big forearm. Yeah, fuck. Yeah. So, and then the thing about it that I love, and I'm looking at pictures of it right now, is that like they're all clearly the same basic model, and then they just like some had longer hair or shorter hair or like different outfits and stuff, but they all pretty well looked the same.
The move list is pretty much the same.
Oh, the move list is like it's like basically identical other than their finishers.
Yeah,
but one thing that I was shocked that the Genesis didn't have was like Yokozuna got like his own sprite. Like he looked completely different because he was like the big fat guy.
Yeah. I also found it fucking hilarious that everybody could body slam him.
Everybody.
Because like there was that iconic moment when Hulk Hogan picked him up and body slammed him.
That was Andre the Giant.
Was it on?
Yeah.
No. There was also one with Yokozuna.
Well, he was the big fat sumo wrestler. Did Hogan slam him too?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I think of the Andre the Giant one. But
I don't know. Fucking look it up right now.
But I mean, you're right. Like, and to be honest, dude, like, I love the Nintendo 64 games as well. It took years before they started to put some kind of physics in. Is that your dog chewing on a toy?
Yeah,
I love it. I was like, I could either that or it sounds like you're like getting laid while you're recording. You're like bouncing on a bed. But if it's no, it's okay. Don't ever take a dog away.
It was Lex Luger body slam Yokozuna.
Okay, yeah. See again, and that's them trying to dude. They tried so hard to make Lex Luger the next Hulk Hogan, and it was like, no, he fucking sucks. Fucking Lex Luger sucks. I hate him. I don't like Hogan either. But anyway, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so like all the wrestlers basically looked the same, but at the same time, I'm looking at an image of it right now, and like, well, they're all the basic same, like they had one palette, and they would just obviously change the colors and stuff. Like they actually, dude, I think this is a surprisingly decent looking video game. Like looking at like you can tell exactly who everybody is. I love the like borderline 3D, like is it? I don't know if 3D is the right word, but like
it's like South Park esque with like depth.
Yes, spot on. It is like South Park. I wish you could whip guys off the top and bottom ropes, but that's a minor thing. Like they can only whip them off the left and right ropes. But like I'm looking at it right now, and like the wrestlers are all. I love how bright and colorful they all look. I'm such a fucking homer for that vintage WWF logo. And like the old ring and stuff, and the old barricades around the ring, and you can see Bobby Heenan sitting in the background calling the matches and stuff. Like this is.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember what his name is, but like the ref in this.
Oh, Earl Hebner.
Yeah,
Earl. Sorry, go ahead.
His sprite looks almost spot on.
He looks great, and so does the Fink. The ring announcer, Howard Finkel, the guy that gets in the ring.
That's what I was thinking of.
Oh yeah, he looks so good. Like the bald head and like, because the thing is like for all of you that aren't wrestling fans, Howard Finkel is. Listen, don't even at me because you're wrong. Howard Finkel is the greatest announcer of all time. Like now approaching the ring, like this guy.
Yeah,
and like to listen to him read off the rules to the Royal Rumble is iconic. Like, because he's like, it is now time for the Royal Rumble match. And then he would explain the rules. And so when they put him in the game, the first time I saw him, like when he comes in at the end of the match, I was like, holy fuck, it's the Fink. Like, dude, there's a lot of like small little details to this game that really make up for the lack of depth and make it fucking awesome. Like, I love the way this game looks. And then I love the fact that you can fight outside the ring and go along the bottom of the ring too.
I think this was like the first game to do that too.
Well, yeah, like we covered Tecmo Wrestling from the NES a few months ago.
Yeah. And
you could fight outside, but not along the bottom, just over to the two sides. And in this one, you get out of the ring, and outside of the top part, like where the play-by-play guys are, like where Bobby Heenan and I think it's Vince McMahon, but like where the play-by-play guys are at the top and you can't get up there, you can walk all the way down around the bottom and everything, and there's tons of room to move around. You can whip guys. Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah.
All the way across.
Yeah. Yeah, you would grab a guy and literally whip him off camera, but like he would just keep going.
And then he would like you would hit the barricade and fall over.
And you'd hear that, and you'd hear the grunt. I love the grunting in this game. It's like, it's just that. Like, there's no music during the match, which I actually like that there's no music. Like, they don't have, because like a lot of those old, sports games, just a generic music playing.
Yeah. The theme music in this for each of the wrestlers.
Oh, Mick.
Done so well considering
Buddy.
It was on the SNES.
I posted about that on social media yesterday, and I was like, because I was working on the preview. So just to let you guys in behind the scenes, like Mick and I are recording this 3:00 Tuesday afternoon. We're sneaking this one in under the buzzer because I just thought to like, oh man, we got to do a Royal Rumble episode. It's Royal Rumble weekend. And so I actually was working on the intro before I gave you a call. So the intro is already recorded and ready to go. And I was putting in the music. And my God, Mick, I went to YouTube just to look up the wrestler themes for this. And they're that like digitized. I used the word pixelated, but I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was my buddy Dan. Somebody was like they called it digitized, and that's how you describe it. The entrance themes, dude, on the character select screen, we would just let it sit. Just flip through the character select screen and just let it play out their music. That's so good, Mick. So good. Oh, the music's better than it is in the Nintendo 64 games. I don't know how, but it is. Like, God damn, do you have a favorite? I'm just curious if you remember any of them.
When I was watching the video the other day, I mean, there were some nostalgic ones, like obviously Macho Man's.
Yes.
Bret Hart's intro was good. Ted DiBiase's, I think, was my favorite.
Oh, yes. Dude, and it's so funny because like I hated playing him as him in this game only because the $1 Million Dream is kind of a lame finish. Like it kind of is. Like it's just a sleeper hold, right? But his music, and I love the $1 Million Man. I fucking love that gimmick so much. I was like legitimately flipping through and I listened to every theme song and I had to pick. I finally picked 3 to put into this episode, and I was like, I want to put all of these in. Like, and you know what? I got to be honest with you. And listen, I don't want anyone yelling at me for throwing shade at Sega because you guys know that we've buried the hatchet. I like Sega now. The Sega music is good, but like I expected the Sega music to be like heads and shoulders ahead of the SNES version because I felt like traditionally they were, and I don't think they are this time. I don't know why that is. I was a little like, it's good. I've always admired Genesis's graphics and the music and stuff. And I think these games look very, very, very similar and sound pretty similar. Which surprised me. That's all. That's just me. But, I love that music too. Mine is probably, as much as I don't like Bret Hart's got a fucking great entrance theme. He really does. And then Razor Ramon. I love Razor Ramon. That's the music I'm going to use at the end of this episode where I read off the thank yous to Patreons. You can all know that right now. It's going to be the Razor Ramon theme because that music is. I love Razor Ramon so much.
Razor Ramon was one of the guys that we fought over.
Like as to who got to play as him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude. I adore Razor Ramon. So we'll get into the game itself. It seems stupid to say, did you have a main when outside of their finishers, they all play exactly the same? But was there a guy you used the most?
Man, looking back on it, I don't know, but I'm sure Shawn Michaels, Razor Ramon, Bret the Hitman Hart were in there.
Yeah.
I don't have, I have way more nostalgia now for Ric Flair, mostly just from, later.
Yeah.
Looking back on them, but at the time, probably not the same.
Same, dude. Honestly,
Papa Shango. I just liked his finishing move.
You know what? If you had told me, pick who you think Miklos Blackshaw would play as in WWF Royal Rumble, Papa Shango would have been near the top of my list. That's a Miklos Blackshaw fucking character.
Man, his finishing move is fucking amazing, and when you're doing choking and the eye rakes and stuff, he's just way more of like an evil looking character.
Yeah.
I mean, he's modeled after Papa Legba, which is, the Crossroads demon in, I'm trying to remember. Hold on, I have a book on it somewhere. In a type of religion or spirituality.
Oh, okay.
I can't find the book. No, that's not it. I don't know what I did with it.
It's so funny to me that he is like, because like whenever I see him, like, because he was the Godfather, right?
Yeah.
And that's who I think of, like when I see the Charles Wright, the wrestlers. I'm like, oh, that's the Godfather. I always forget that he was Papa Shango. Like, what a fucking goofy gimmick. There's something to be said for this era when like everyone was either a normal person, like a Bret Hart or a Shawn Michaels, or they were just these weird fucking IRS, the $1 Million Man, Papa Shango, the Undertaker. Like, I love those gimmicks.
Man, when I was looking back at this, I was just like, I was trying to think of what the special moves for some of these characters were.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking that Shawn Michaels was going to be Sweet Chin Music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was not. And
no.
I was like, what?
I know. So like, because Shawn Michaels is Chris Jericho's my favorite wrestler of all time, but I think Shawn Michaels is the greatest in-ring wrestler of all time. And I would love to play as him in this game, but without Sweet Chin Music, I'm like, you kind of suck. Like, you need Sweet Chin Music. I was like, nobody wants to do a back suplex. It's a fucking horrible finish. You want to do a Sweet Chin? So I agree with you. So all the wrestlers had the same moves, but then they all had their distinct finishers. And like some finishers that stood out to me were like, I actually would play as Bret Hart and Ric Flair sometimes, just because their finish, I didn't have to mash the buttons to fill up that meter. I just had to go to the feet and push R and like put them in the figure 4, the sharpshooter. Taker with the tombstone obviously is awesome. And then
doing the Razor's Edge.
Oh, Razor's Edge was rad. And then I actually loved Tatanka's follow it. Like I loved doing Tatanka's finish. Oh, and Mr. Perfect with the perfect plex. Except that he wouldn't pin them. Like that should be a pin. And then you have to get up and then go over and pin them, which I found a little bit disappointing. But, that
would have just been too much work.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. But I love that they all had their own finishers. Because other than that, so like if you've never played this game, like you pick your wrestlers, and then outside of like punching and kicking, and then I think you could run and do a drop kick. And other than that, basically,
you could clothesline.
Right, you could whip a guy off the ropes and clothesline him, or you could whip him off the ropes and then hip toss him. And if you're in the Rumble, you could just cheap the fuck out and just hip toss guys out of the ring all the time, like just the cheapest crap. And then you could like choke guys and like gouge their eyes. But then if you locked up with each other, then it literally just became mashing buttons. And the stronger, more complex move you wanted to do, the further you had to fill up your gauge. And it would be like a tug of war. So if Mick and I were playing against each other, we'd lock up and then we both just have to mash buttons on our controller and try to fill our meters up. And dude, like it would, I don't know how it was with you, but like when I would play this with like my friend Sean or whoever, eventually one of us would just have to be like, all right, fuck, take the move. Because like you would never fill that fucking thing up. It would take forever.
Just go back and forth since the beginning.
And like to me, that's probably the weakest part of the game is that grapple mechanic was cool in 1993, but like it gets old fucking really, really fast, man. Like, whoa.
Well, I believe that, and I might be wrong here, but I believe that like it also had to do with like how much health you had too.
Yeah, I think you might be right. Well, I know you couldn't do a finisher on someone until they were down to like the red. But
but like even like trying to it like affected how much it would go up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
So if you were getting a beating laid on you, you weren't doing much afterwards.
It would just take so fucking long. And then to do a finisher, if you had a finisher that was in a grapple, like for argument's sake, the Undertaker's Tombstone or Razor's Edge, you had to fill that meter all the way using like the right trigger at the end. And you know how hard it is to mash the right trigger on a Super Nintendo controller? I don't know what it was like on the Genesis, but it was fucking impossible. So like,
I had the 6-button thing controller. So like it was just like right perfect for the thumb.
Yeah, that's perfect. I love that 6-button controller.
Honestly, that was one of the greatest things about the Genesis.
That 6-button controller. Yeah, it was fucking dope, man. 6 buttons. That's a lot of buttons. Like, and I guess the Super Nintendo's got the same amount if you throw the 4 plus the 2 shoulders in, but
yeah,
I love the 6 on the face, man. But that was it. Like, that was the basic combat in the game. And it didn't matter. You could turn the computer all the way up to a 10 difficulty. You'd always beat them in those grapples. And then if you were playing against your friend, you either needed one of you to give up or you had to unplug the other one's controller, which we would do all the time. And so, like, yeah, it would, like, that's why I'm like, I don't really have any urge to play this game today. As much as I love this game, I'm like, I think that like, you'd play one match and be like, all right, well, that fucking sucks. Like, just mashing and mashing and mashing the buttons to fill up those fucking lists. It was more fun when you just stand there like, just punching each other, like, just shot for shot until one of you would finally fall down. Ah, good stuff. Good stuff. And the other problem with this game is that, like, so everyone's got the same few moves, like the body slam and the backbreaker and things like that. The other problem with this game is that there really isn't very much depth. Like, like the modes, like outside of the Royal Rumble, which we'll get into because the Royal Rumble mode is obviously the best mode in this game. Like, obviously.
I did enjoy the brawl where you could go outside and beat the crap out of each other.
Oh, right. All you had to do was you just had to, like, basically kill the other guy. Like, you just had to that's honestly, I found that more fun than a regular match. So, like, it had a brawl. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I always thought it was funny that in wrestling in general, that, like, the rules only really applied, like, inside the ring.
Yeah. Well,
outside the ring, do whatever you want.
Yeah. Well, that's because the referee's job once you out of the ring is to yell at you to get back in the ring. Like, come on, get back in here. And they're like fighting up the ramp. Get back here. But yeah, so, like, it had a brawl mode where you would, like, instead of trying to pin each other, you had a health meter at the top of the screen for each character, and all you had to do was empty your opponent's health, and then you knocked him out. And it was like a last man standing match, and then you won. But that was one where, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe there were countouts or anything, so I think you could go out of the ring and fight out there all you want.
No, you could go out of the ring. Oh, yeah.
Whereas if you're playing a regular, like a one fall match or a tag team match, like anything with regular standard rules, the referee would try to count you out when you were out of the ring and all that kind of stuff. Plus the chair was out there and you could hit, which everybody always went for the chair. You had to go for the chair. And if I'm not mistaken, you couldn't get disqualified in this one either. I think you could hit each other guy. You could hit the other one, but I think you could only hit someone with a chair once and then the chair would break and then disappear. So like, it was a fight to see who would get the chair.
I was trying to remember if there were any real penalties for, in the regular matches for choking.
No, I don't think there was. I think they would just let you do it for a minute. Like, it was pretty basic game. But it was still fun. And then, oh, dude, do you remember you could knock the referee out?
Yes.
Oh, and of course,
you could throw people into it.
Yeah, and, like, we'd always just run at the referee and try to knock the referee out. And it didn't even make much of a difference. But we used to play where, like, we had a rule in place where you couldn't hit the other guy with a chair unless the referee was knocked out. Like, had, like, that was the only time we would let, because I don't think that you could get disqualified for it. So we would just try to add it.
Oh, you could spend so much time outside if you knocked the ref down.
Yeah, because then he wouldn't count, right? But then when he wake up, he'd just start counting. But then, and I actually love this because, like, if you're a pro wrestling fan, like, this is a real thing. All you had to do to reset the count is roll in the ring and then get out, and you could, like, reset. You know what? And I loved that. But being able to knock the referee out was crazy shit, man.
We used to try to do, like, cheap stuff outside the ring. Like that long throw down the front.
Yeah.
If you could, like, choke someone and then throw them down so they'd be exhausted from the choke, you would get a little bit of a bonus for like whipping them down there.
Yeah.
And you can't stop, right?
No. Dude, you know how many fights that my brother and I got in because one of us would whip, like, you'd be at like a 7 or 8 count, like on the outside of the ring, and then you'd whip the other guy, and it would take him 3 seconds just to run across the screen, and nothing could stop him. And then you just get back in the ring and let him get counted out while he's running across the ring. Oh, god damn, it was outside of the ring, and fuck the fights, because it was such a bullshit, cheap way to finish a game. The cheapest shit in the world, but god damn, it wasn't funny. So good. And then there was, like, tag team matches too.
Those are pretty fun because you get, like, a refreshed character.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think you gained some health back from being out on the side. I don't remember though.
Yeah, I don't remember if you got that back or not, but even if you
It
didn't,
wasn't a lot.
yeah, even if you didn't, like you were just, it was like conserving your health, right? So, and I remember just thinking it was so much fun to like be able to create random tag teams, like put Bret Hart with Shawn Michaels or put The Undertaker with, Mr. Perfect or just whatever you wanted to do to build I loved that. And then I'm 90% sure, I can't remember if this was just in WWF Raw or Royal Rumble. I think it was in Royal Rumble where you could do 3-on-3 tag teams as well. But
yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, but you had to switch whoever was on the ring apron by hitting select. Which is crazy to me because we'll get to the Royal Rumble in a minute, but this game could handle 6 people in the ring at once.
Yeah.
But for some reason in a 3-on-3 match, you couldn't have both of your partners on the ring apron. You had to switch between them.
Yeah, I think maybe there might have been issues with just that area.
Maybe. Because I just yeah.
Because then you would have to program the both to be selectable.
Yeah, I guess.
It just might have been an issue that way.
Because I loved the idea of being able to do a 3-on-3 tag team match. I thought that was like the coolest shit in the world.
And there was enough to do the tournament.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Excuse me. Because that was the other thing is so you could do all those individual matches like one-on-one, the brawls. You could do the tag team matches. Or you could go through a tournament either as a single wrestler or in a tag team to win a championship. And which was I think was pretty even, dude. Like when WWF Warzone came out on the Nintendo 64 on PlayStation, that was the main career mode, was just fighting your way through a ladder of opponents. That's basically what it was every fighting game for a long time. That was the story mode. But you're right, it had a big enough roster that you could do a tag team tournament mode, and you'd get to fight a whole bunch of other random teams. And I actually enjoyed the tag team tournament better because you never knew which 2 wrestlers you were going to go up against.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And you could do it with a friend. Like you guys could do it 2-player. In the same team, which was always a lot of fun too.
Man, you remember playing video games with friends?
Yeah. Dude, you know what? Isn't that the truth? Wrestling games, aside from maybe Mario Kart, wrestling video games as a whole are like my favorite couch co-op games of all time. And it doesn't matter if it's this or WWF Raw or Tecmo Wrestling on the NES or the Nintendo 64 games or the SmackDowns. Wrestling games with your friends is the funnest shit in the world, man. The funnest shit in the world. I miss those days. You're right. So I don't think we're forgetting anything from all the other because the Royal Rumble is the main event. Like that's what everybody played. But I don't think we missed anything from any of the other modes. They're all it was all just very basic. There was no storylines. It was just fight through a ladder. And then you got the championship belt. Like they'd bring in that generic looking belt at the end. And then that would be it. Like you wouldn't even, and then the fake WWF magazine would come in and be like, congratulations to the new, which I always thought was a great touch. Just that WWF magazine announcing who the new champion was. I always thought that was fucking awesome. So cheesy.
You got to get some hype, right?
Yeah. So cheesy. But then obviously the last mode in the game is Royal Rumble. And I don't know about you, Mick, but holy fuck did we play a lot of Royal Rumbles back in the day. This was the mode that we played all the time. All the fucking time. So I guess if you don't know what the Royal Rumble is, just quickly, in case you're listening to this and you don't know what the Royal Rumble is, I assume most people do. But 2 wrestlers start out in the ring, and then in the real WWF, it's 30 wrestlers, but in this game, there's only 12. So 2 wrestlers start out in the ring, and then every so often, another wrestler will enter the ring in a random order. And then once you're in the ring, you're in the match until you get thrown over the top rope and you touch the floor. Both feet touch the floor. In this game, you just get thrown over the top rope. And then you're eliminated. And then another wrestler will come in, and they keep coming in their regular intervals until all 30 wrestlers have entered the ring, and then the last guy in the ring wins the Royal Rumble. And in this game, there's only 12, but you could have up to 6 guys in the ring at a time. And I got to be honest with you, Mick, this blew me away. Because compared to the NES, where you'd have 2 guys in the ring at once, to see 6 guys crowding into that ring, things got fucking hectic when you had 6 guys in there. It was fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, there'd be so many times you try to throw someone to the ropes to throw them out, and someone who would knock them down before they got back to you.
Yeah, because once you got so when you were in the Royal Rumble, you weren't allowed to leave the ring. The camera didn't move; it was stationary on the ring. And the two ways, and correct me if I can't think of another way, so maybe I'm wrong, but like the two ways that I can think of to be thrown out were like if you were really beat up, then if somebody grappled you near the ropes and filled up their meter, they would just pick you up and throw you over the top rope.
Yeah.
Or if you were running, they could do that hip toss and throw you over. It didn't matter how much health you had. Like, and that was, dude, did you ever accidentally run and get thrown out and just didn't even see it coming?
So many times.
Oh, and the rage you would feel, like, you'd be like, what? No! Like, just, all you were trying to do was like, maybe you weren't even trying to run. But when you get 6 guys in there, it's like a real Royal Rumble. The ring is full. And you need to watch your ass.
It's not a big ring, right?
No, it's not. And you need to watch your ass because, you run. And if someone just happens to hit the button while you're running, they'll just hip toss your ass over the top rope and you're eliminated, sir. And God, it would make me so mad when I'd get eliminated that way. But, and I think if you were on the top rope, you could get knocked out of the ring that way too. But if you go on the top rope in a Royal Rumble, you're a dumbass. You deserve to get knocked out. So,
I don't know, man. It was pretty fun to try to pull off the flying elbow.
That's true.
With Randy Savage.
Yeah, if you were Macho Man, then you have to. That's different.
That was like the ultimate in like the disc for the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
If you could pull that off on someone.
Oh God, it was fun. And the best part to me about the Royal Rumble match was that it was 2 players and you would be the 2 that started out in the ring. And dude, I can't even tell you how many times like me and a buddy or me and my little brother we'd make it an alliance. And it'd be like, as soon as guys got in the ring, one opponent would get in the ring, you team up on him, throw him out, and then wait for the next guy, till it came down to just the 2 of you. And then you'd go off on each other and try to win the Rumble.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
You had to do that. But it was like, one of the funnest things about the real Royal Rumble is the anticipation of never knowing who's coming down to the ring next. And I got that in this game because you never knew who the next wrestler to come out was. And I know they were all the same and it didn't matter, but it was still so much fun. Like, oh, fuck, it's The Undertaker. Like, oh, it's Yokozuna. Like, oh, God. So many. And it never got old, Mick. It never got old. Oh, my God, it was fun.
For the amount of because I didn't have an NES or SNES, like my dad had one, but I wasn't there all the time.
Yeah.
But for the amount of time that I would play on somebody's Super Nintendo, this game got played a lot.
Oh, dude.
And I don't know anyone that like owned it, so that was like, oh, we're going over to someone's house, it's someone's birthday or something, we're renting this game.
Yeah. So it's funny you bring that up because so there was this video store in Cold Lake, Leo's Video Max. That's where we would rent our games from. And me and my pal Sean, we would rent this game several times a month. Like if we had money, we would just go rent WWF Royal Rumble. And then finally they were like selling a bunch of their old Super Nintendo games and we bought it like dirt cheap and kept playing it. But you're right. I didn't know a single person that owned it. I didn't think this game was that big a deal. But dude, when I posted that we were talking about this game, the fucking nerds, and I'm calling you all that as a term of respect because I'm a wrestling nerd myself. The nerds, the fucking hot dogs came out in force. And everyone was like, I remember that game. I don't think there was a good WWF game on the NES. If there was, I don't remember playing it. I think they all kind of sucked.
Yes, they did.
So outside
I did like being Bam Bam Bigelow for his cartwheels.
Oh, fucking! I love Bam Bam, but fuck me. Like outside of maybe WrestleFest, the arcade game, like this might have been the first like really good WWF game, and it was just like you said, dude. Oh my God, to play this with like a big group of people at like a sleepover or for a weekend or something, so much fun. We used to run like seasons where everyone had one wrestler and we would keep track of stats and keep track of who the champs were and stuff like that.
Oh yes, for sure we did that.
Like writing everything down, just fucking, there was no girls. Yeah. We were just fucking nerds. Oh dude, and you know what else was sick? Do you remember in the Royal Rumble, my favorite thing about the Royal Rumble match is that after it was over, you could see everybody's stats.
Yes.
And it would play the winner's music. Oh.
Yeah, and then you get to see how well everyone did.
Yeah.
It was like Smash Brothers before Smash Brothers came out.
Yeah, you're right.
That kind of stats.
You're right. Like it's funny because like I actually really enjoy like every year when the actual Royal Rumble comes around in WWE now, they always put out tons of like video packages. It's one of those things where like the people that have been eliminated in the least amount of time, the most amount of time, who went the longest, who's won the most, who has the most eliminations. Like that's a big thing. Like in WWE, they keep track of all those stats. And I geek hard over that shit. I love that stuff. And when you play this at the end of the Royal Rumble, you would have to just listen to the winner's music, and then you could flip through every single wrestler and see the order they entered, how long they lasted, who they eliminated, what time they eliminated everyone at. We would just... It was so geeky, but we would analyze those fucking stats like for minutes and like keep track of like length records and stuff like that. That was completely unnecessary, but it was such an awesome touch. Such an awesome touch. Love that shit. And you know what, Mick? I don't know if you play a lot of wrestling games today. They don't do that shit today with their Royal Rumble modes. Like, they don't keep track of all those stats.
That is stupid.
Yeah, I'm like, how the fuck was you able to do this? Like, I get that it was a lot easier in the Super Nintendo when you had 12 wrestlers. But, like, they don't, like, the one thing I like about games today that this game didn't do when it comes to Royal Rumbles is in today's world, you pick your wrestler and then you can tell the game, do you want to be the first, like, what number you want to enter at, or you can make it random and then wait. And if you get eliminated, you can choose to control whoever comes out next so you can keep playing. Which this game should have had that.
Well, I mean, it would have been nice, but also if you were both eliminated, it was neat watching the rest.
It's true.
And then we would have like little bets. We'd be cheering for people.
It's so, oh God. For anyone that didn't grow up playing this, you're not going to understand. Like, you're right, dude. We would, fuck me. If I accidentally like got thrown out early on because I accidentally ran and someone like hip tossed me out, bet your ass I'm just going to sit there and watch the Rumble. Like, fuck.
And like, you would always cheer for someone who like eliminated your buddy.
Oh yeah, fuck yes. And it would get like, and it's so funny because like it wasn't even like an entertaining match. Like you just and they'd all just be like, if you whip someone to the ropes and they were too close to the top or the bottom of the screen, it would be like they hit the turnbuckle and they just fall over, so they wouldn't even come back. But like you would still, you were just watching for those eliminations. And the best was like, I don't know how you were, but like we would legitimately pop like when someone got eliminated, and because the crowd would do that like big cheer, and you like Shawn Michaels would be like, every time someone ran across the ring, that was where your attention went, because you're like, oh shit. And then if they got hip tossed out, you were like, Shawn Michaels, like, oh fuck, it was the fucking sad. So sad, but god damn it, it was so much fun. Like Royal Rumble modes to me are always the best modes in wrestling games, at least when it comes to playing with your friends. And this was the first one, and you could frankly eliminate all the other modes, the one-on-one, the tag teams, all that stuff, and just make the Royal Rumble. And I would have bought the game, like, and I would have kept playing it just for the Royal Rumble mode. God damn it, man! So many memories of playing that mode. Anyway, we extracted a lot of meat out of an incredibly fucking
basic game,
incredibly thin video game. I literally think we talked about everything.
I believe we did. I'm looking at all of the match types and stuff. Like, even the Wikipedia page is fucking, there's nothing here.
Yeah, this is an incredible, like, did you ever play, like, we'll do an episode about this game eventually, but did you ever play Raw, like WWF Raw?
For the 64?
No, for like, I played it on Super Nintendo. It was the sequel to this game.
Probably.
It was like, it really wasn't much better, but it had like a Survivor Series mode where you could go 4v4, and if you got pinned, then you were out, but the rest of your team like would stay alive. And it had like I know it had at least one female wrestler because it had Luna Vachon in it. So it was just, it had a few more moves. It was basically like a more spruced up version of this. But it's funny because more people I know and that I've talked to played Royal Rumble than Raw, even though Raw was like a better version of Royal Rumble.
Oh, it looks fucking gross.
Raw?
Yeah.
Yeah, like like in ways, they're obviously trying to improve it, but like to me in ways, it doesn't look as good. Like Royal Rumble looks better. I don't give a shit what anyone says. I don't think the gameplay in Royal Rumble has held up well. Obviously, there's no depth, but
you could play as Doink the Clown.
Yeah, buddy.
Oh my god.
I know. I said that on Twitter. Somebody tweeted at me and was like, "I loved Raw," and I was like, "Dude, Raw had Doink."
Bam Bigelow. Oh my god. I want to play this now.
I don't even care that there's no depth. These are fun games, and like I'm telling you, just look up a screenshot of Royal Rumble. It looks decent today. Like it doesn't look. It looks to me. It looks almost as good as
if they were to release this on the Switch as part of the SNES package, I would probably play it. But
no doubt.
Raw,
yeah.
But Raw looks fucking garbage compared.
Yeah, it's the sequel, and there's way more depth. But I agree with you. I remember we rented it once, and it was fun to play the extra modes and stuff. But I was like, it just doesn't look as crisp. Like Royal Rumble looks very clean. It's clean. It's crisp. It looks like early '90s WWF. You know, right up to like the little details, like that iron barricade around the ring, and Bobby the Brain and Vince McMahon in the background, and the crowd cheering, and the old logos. The red, white, blue ropes is such a great touch because that's so vintage, man. I love this stupid game. I don't even you can't convince me this game isn't good. Even you can tell me that it's not good, like there's not enough depth and shit to it, and that's fine. But this game kicks ass. Like if you insult this game around me, like we'll fight. It's like that bugs me because this game's fucking awesome.
This game sucked a lot of hours out of me.
Yeah. Oh, dude, and you remember when the referee would count a pin and the counts were like 1, 2, 3, and then nobody would cheer. You just stand up and raise your arms, and it would ring the bell. Like it was so anti-dramatic. Like, fuck yeah, I love it.
It was like, well, I mean, it gave you a little bit of time to get out. Yeah,
it did. Yeah, you could kick out. Yeah, but and that was the other thing that I actually like about this game too, is that when you were out of health, like you weren't kicking out. And it was dope, like when you'd hit your finisher on someone and it would knock out the rest. Like I'm okay with someone kicking out of a finisher once in a while, but like in current wrestling game, like the last WWE game I played was 2K17, I want to say, and like it was a lot of fun, but like almost always people will kick out of your finisher to start. Like you had to like really wear them down. Whereas in this game, what I actually really like is that you weren't even able to do your finisher until a guy was at a point where it would beat him. You know? Yeah. And I liked that because and that was the other thing when I don't know how you guys played, but like when we were playing against each other, the only way you were allowed to win a match was with your finisher. Like there was no cheat. Oh. Like you couldn't be out of health and accidentally run into a rope and then get fucking pinned afterwards.
We tried. As best we could.
Yeah. Well, but
right. But I mean, like back when I was into wrestling, that was the biggest thing, was the finisher moves.
Yeah.
You always wanted to do them.
Yeah. It was fun. Like it was worth the big cheer. Like we all wanted to see the finishing moves and stuff like that. Like it was because that was the thing is, like I said, if you ran near the ropes and you were too close to the top of the screen or the bottom, you would hit the rope and just fall down. And if you were out of health, then you would do that run, hit the rope, fall down, and then the other guy could pin you and you'd be fucked. And it'd be like, that's such what? So I lost because I accidentally ran into the ropes too close to the turnbuckle? Fuck right off. So we would always, we would play.
One of my favorite things too about the Royal Rumble was that you could do multiple finisher moves.
Yes. Oh, dude. Yes, you would hitting, because like you get guys that were worn out and then you could just fucking, but that was the other thing. Oh, dude, that was the other thing. In the Royal Rumble mode, you couldn't tell what your opponent's health was. Yeah. So you never knew if they were worn down enough to do a finisher or throw them out or not. So you'd be mashing and mashing and mashing and mashing the R trigger, hoping to hit your tombstone with the Undertaker, and then he'd pick him up and do a backbreaker instead. And I'd be like, fuck, that guy's not beat up enough yet for my finisher then. But once you got to get...
many sharpshooters.
Yeah. And just over and over and over. And they wouldn't tap out because they couldn't because it was the Royal Rumble. I remember doing the exact same thing, but with Flair in the figure 4, just over and over and over. And my brother, particularly my brother, getting so mad at me, just being like, well, just tap out. And like, I can't. And then, fuck. Good times. And then you'd screw up and run at the wrong time.
Top rope.
Yeah. And then you'd screw up at the wrong time and run after all the sharpshooters and get thrown over the top rope and get eliminated. Good time. Fuck, I want to play this right now. And I know that I'll play it for 2 minutes, but like, this kind of sucks. But I got mad love for this fucking game, Mick.
Oh, the nostalgia for this game was amazing.
So good.
Like,
yeah, you got any other before we score this thing? Did we miss anything?
I cannot think of anything that we missed. I mean, I'm sure as soon as we end this, I'm like, oh, God damn it.
Yeah.
But I think we pretty much capitalized on all the nostalgia of this game.
Oh, so good.
With how much fun it was.
Yeah. It was, dude, I'm telling you guys, if you've never played it, it's not available on anything. Like, old wrestling games don't get re-released because of the licensing of all the wrestlers that are in it and stuff like that. But, like, look up a ROM. Don't go out of your way to play it because there's really not a lot of meat on the bone here. But, like, if you ever see it on a hacked console or something, like, give it a chance because it's fun. It's a fun just button masher. It's good time.
My buddy has a bunch of ROMs for his computer, and he's got USB controllers. So I might see if he can get it.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's like, I honestly, dude, I think this would be fun now to just get baked and just play with your buddy for an hour and just have a couple of Royal Rumbles and just like argue with each other. That'd be fun. That'd be a good time.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I love wrestling games. Okay, so I know there's only 12 wrestlers in this, but there's 30 in a traditional Royal Rumble. So that's we'll go with that. So on a scale of 1 to 30, what would you score WWF Royal Rumble for the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis?
26.
It's a pretty good score. Yeah, I'm probably in around that 24, 25. Like, it's like, dude, like, I'll tell you right now, if you gave me a choice where like I could instantly have a Super Nintendo and Royal Rumble under my TV or a Nintendo 64 and any of those big THQ Nintendo 64 games, I'm going to take the Nintendo 64 ones all day. But I've got,
I don't know, man, the multiplayer capability of doing WCW versus NWO.
Yeah. Oh, that's like, I want revenge or I want no mercy all day.
If they could do that with a Royal Rumble feature.
Oh, well, like they had like, I can't remember if WCW NWO Revenge had because I know WWF No Mercy had a Royal Rumble feature, but the big problem with it was like you could get eliminated just by like one punch if your guy just reacted the wrong way. Like one punch, you'd stumble backwards, fall over the ropes, and get out. And you'd be like, what? That's such a load of shit. Whereas, like, I guess the same thing happened in this one because if you accidentally ran, you got thrown over the top rope. I would rather have the 64 games, but I will always have a soft spot in my heart for Royal Rumble on the Super Nintendo. I put so many hours into this game. I love this video game so much. Yeah. I think we're done. Dude, we literally covered, I don't know if we've ever as thoroughly covered everything in a video game as we fucking did in this one. I don't think there's anything
there was
left.
Not a lot to this, and we were both excited about all of the things.
It's true. Like, we both got pretty wound up over a fucking very stupid old video game. That's what this show's all about. It's all about getting wound up over something stupid. That's what Remember the Game is. Mick, thanks so much for giving me a call on such short notice and spending almost an hour talking about fucking WWF Royal Rumble with me, buddy. I appreciate it.
No problem, man. It was lots of fun. Thanks for remembering that we planned to do this at one point.
We did. We talked about this like a year ago. I forgot about it. And then I was going to record this by myself. And then I was looking at my games list and I was like, holy fuck, Mick and I were going to talk Rumble. We got to talk to... So anyways, yes, it worked out good. Next time we have you on the show, we'll talk about a game with a little bit more sustenance to it than Royal Rumble. May not be as fun, but it'll be more sustenance.
Sounds good, man. Take her easy.
You too. That's going to do it for this week's episode. Miklos, thank you so much for giving me a call and talking a little vintage, old school wrestling Royal Rumble with me. God, I love this video. I want to play this game right now. And to every single one of you hearing my voice right now, thank you so much for listening to the show. Listen, if you enjoy what we do, if you like my stupid podcast or my stupid voice or whatever, consider supporting us on Patreon. It's $2. I made it as cheap as I possibly could so everyone could enjoy it. It helps me more than you could possibly imagine. You get a ton of extra podcasts that I actually try really hard on. You get a shout out on the show. You can submit comments and a whole bunch of other fun stuff. This Sunday's episode of Expansion Pass will be all about the worst enemies in video games, which should be a really good time. And so just patreon.com/rememberthegame. Don't forget I have a P.O. box. The address is on our website, rememberthegamepodcast.com. Shoot me a postcard or something. I'll shoot you one back and we'll be pen pals. And check, I just burped right into the microphone. That's how good a show this is. I don't do that on Expansion Pass. You pay extra. I don't release gas onto the podcast. And then check me out on Twitch. I'm over there Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday night from 8 to 10:30 or 11 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Just streaming old video games and new video games and Tetris and getting chirped by the audience while we're over there. Look for Member the Game over on Twitch. Not Member the Game. It's free. Come by and talk to me. I spend a lot of time chatting with everyone. It's a lot of fun. That'll do it, you guys. I will be back on Friday with Game Patch 23.0 for Patreons. I'll be back on Sunday with Expansion Pass number 44. And I will be back next week with episode 134 of this little weed of a podcast of ours, Remember the Game. Thanks for listening. I will talk to you soon. Cheers. Remember the Game is brought to you by our Patreons. I simply could not produce the content I am without all of your support. It means so fucking much, and I would like to take a moment to thank everyone that has supported us at patreon.com/rememberthegame. And quickly before I do it, one note, every week I read this off, but it's really hard to keep up with an update every week because people change their names. Some people, their payments don't go through. They don't get back on the Patreon or they sign up. So listen, here's what's going to happen beginning the first episode of February. I'm going to record this thing for the first episode of February and then use this shout out for the month. So if you sign up during February, you will still get your plug at the beginning of the episode in the intro like I always do, but then you'll get added to this the following month so that I only have to do it once because it just is really big and overwhelming and frankly quite difficult. So just so you know, beginning next week, I will be doing that. But this week, you guys get all the thank yous just like normal where I struggle through them. So a humongous thank you to the Anti-Spatial Podcast, Nicholas Martinez, A Novel Console, Kevin, AJ Jones, AJ Freeman, Aaron Lawson, Adam Anderson, Adam Beasley, Adam Osharello, Aled C, Alex Martinez, Amy Gillen, Andre, Andrew Wright, Andy Baker, April Zane, Arpad Bodos, Ashley Cronenbitter, Badar Barhumi, Ben Booyah, Ben Busha, Ben Drinkin, Bradley McHugh, Bracken Newcomb, Brandon O'Brien, Brian McKay, Brian Medeiros, Brian Ransom, Charlie M, Chris Campbell, Chris Fleury, Chris Wilson, Christopher Russell, Chuck Schlarp, Corey, Craig Rutt, Crash Bandicoot, Chris Knife 007, Dan T, Dana Wutchroll, Danny Vega, Dario Omen, Dave L, Dave McGee, Dave Thompson, David Ray, David Schnatterer, Defunct, Derek Jane, Desert Tortoise, Divalk, Du Howe, Dominic S. Thompson, Doug Dorn, Dylan, M. Felf, Eric Cannard, Evan Refuse, Fraser Burns, Freddie Bovenkirk, G9PSX, Gary C., Geek Life Radio, Jin and Chris, Crimpy, Henri SJA Flash, James Anderson, James Clark, Jared, Jason Cortez, Jay Clutch, Jeff Johnson from Game on GNT, Jeffrey Mathis, Jer Bear, Jesse Clark, Joe Buck, Joe Gillespie, Joe Mack, John Doskus, John Quack, Jordan, Josh Morgan, Josh from the Press Start to Join podcast, Kate Roberts, Casey Rarick, Keegs, Kelly, Kevin Chincholo, Kevin Hufford, KMR Live, Kyle Paul, Lane Orr, Leon Knapskog, Les Winan, Luca, Luis Oliva, Mackenzie Wheeler, Mad Shibs, Makeshift Money, Mark Jones, Mark McHugh, Mark 209, Martin Greenwood, Matt Brown, Matt McLean, Matthew Davis, Mercury 869, Michael Mathis, Michael Haig, Mike Cummings, Mike Malawany, Miklos Blackshaw, Miles from BringBackRetro.com, Morgan, MPG in Buffalo, Mr. Satan, Mr. Impressive, Mr. Nick, Wolverine Films, Nathan Combs, Nathan Tremblay, Nathan W., Nevrop, Nick Sills, Nicholas Martinez, No One Cares, Pat Duddy, Parzival, PB McFadden, Pie Messiah, Potato Bob Guy, Raging Demon, Retro Ghosty Ghost, Rex, Robert Fuchsia, Robert L., Rodrigo Tomazai, I'm sure I said that wrong. Ryan Bayshore, Ryan Kinchin, Ryan Yeager, Scott Brooks, Scott V, Sean Clifford, Sean Razine, Sharonic, Silver Grunion, Slick Rick, Starl Probin, Stitch, Stupid Monkey, Super Mary Ho, That One Kid Nick, The Giraffe, The Honest Pokemon Trainer, The T-Word, They Call Me Badger, Thomas D. Reynolds, Tim L., Tim Riel, Todd O., Tom Kite, Tony Cherichetti, Travis, Trevor Hillier, Tyler, Very Cool Dude, Vincent L., Vladstein, Whiteboro, Wyman Brooks, X-Water, Yamcha, Zane Donovan, and Zoot Troy. Thank you all so much. Talk to you guys soon. Cheers.